On today's call, I want to go over the art of mastering bouncing back. Now, what do I mean by bouncing back? I don't mean like bouncing back after a baby. I mean just getting back on the wagon that we fall off, getting back on the horse, dusting off our shoulders. How do we get back in? And it doesn't necessarily mean you like messed up a diet, skipped a workout, and you want to get back into it. I just mean like even just a little mental rut. How do we get back in the game? And I wanted to do this topic because I heard a few statistics that really blew my mind. And it really, really puts this whole journey into perspective. Okay, so I'm going to share these statistics with you, and it's going to really change how you view the rest of your journey forever. So, the first statistics was Elvis. Elvis recorded over 700 songs, over 700, maybe even more. But he only had about 40 songs that made the top 10, I think, Billboard list. Only about 40 songs that made the top 10 and that were famous all around the world. And if you do the math, ladies, that's a 5% success rate. Elvis was only 5% success. Elvis! Yet everybody knows who the hell Elvis is. I don't even gotta say his whole name. And then if you look at Vincent van Gogh, the famous painter, Vincent van Gogh, I think over his career, he painted, I think over 900 different works of art. And there are only about 20 that people can recognize. There's only about 20 famous paintings that people can recognize. 20 out of 900. You know what that is? Ladies, that's a 2% success rate. Vincent van Gogh, one of the most famous, well-known painters in the whole world, only had a 2% success rate. And then if you go to Thomas Edison, I think he had about over 1,000 different patents, over 1,000 different inventions. And we only know him for what? The light bulb. That's 1 out of 1,000 that he was successful in. That's universally known. That is a 0.1% success rate, not even a full percent success rate. Is that not crazy? Think about that for a second. The people who put their mark on history, the people whose names we know, the people who we think are the most successful in their field and accomplish such great things, they actually have a smaller success rate than you and me. Think about that for a second. So what does that mean practically? That means they don't hold themselves back. They don't care what people think as much as we do. They try more than we do. They take more risks than we do. They are willing to fail more than we do. Because the more you fail, the faster you learn, the faster you find the one thing that kicks off, the one thing that you can finally be successful at, the one thing that skyrockets you. Failure is like a slingshot. Failure pulls you back, but if you use failure properly, you let go of that slingshot and it propels you forward faster than before the failure. So this is something so cool. Like imagine if all of these people, Elvis and Van Gogh and Edison, imagine if all these people were afraid of trying again. Imagine after Elvis's first song and it didn't make the top 10. Imagine if he just stopped making music. Can you imagine a world without Elvis? Do you know how many artists he's influenced and your favorite artists who were influenced by the influences of Elvis? Like it's crazy. Imagine if Elvis didn't write, Jailhouse Rock. I'd be so sad. That's not like my favorite song. So imagine if these people stopped trying. We wouldn't have sky rises. We wouldn't have lights on we wouldn't have roads. We wouldn't have a wheel. We wouldn't have cars. We wouldn't have bottled water, fresh drinking water, indoor plumbing. And it was because somebody dared to fail more than anybody else ever had in that area before. And so it is your job, it is your responsibility, it is your mission on this earth to fail more in your life than anybody else. Because you're the only one in control of your life. You're the only one that can do it. It is your mission to fail faster, fail as many times as you can. If you want to make history, and you don't have to be written about in the books, if you want to make history to yourself, if you want to leave a legacy to yourself or to your family, the word of the year should be persistence. Persistence, not perfection, not even progression. Persistence. keep going, keep going, try again, do more, reiterate, go again. The word of the year for you should be persistence. Because if you think about a river, ladies, think about a river. Have you guys seen those rivers that run right through mountains or right over mountains? You see, a river doesn't cut through a mountain because it's powerful. It's not like a sandblaster blasting through a mountain. A river cuts through a mountain because it is persistent. Years and years of wearing that mountain down. And then you have a beautiful river running right through. And it is through persistence that you reach your goal. And I love, there's a quote I heard, and it says, thankfully, persistence is a great substitute for talent. Persistence substitutes talent any day. If you're not good at something, if you don't have a great metabolism, if you're not athletic, if you can't move, if you've got bad knees, if you've got anxiety, if you've got depression, if you've got a spouse that's sabotaging you, friends that are challenging, if you've got X, Y, and Z, if you don't have natural talent to cook, to meal prep, to exercise, to be motivated, to be disciplined, if it doesn't come naturally to you, guess what? Persistent wins over talent any day. Do you know how many people do you have that one person in your life that always talks about the good old days because they haven't really accomplished much since then? Do you know how many people say they could have been an athlete because they were really, really good in high school? They could have been a dancer. They could have been a chef. They could have been a singer. They could have been X, Y, Z because they had the natural talent and they enjoyed it because they were good at it. But guess what they didn't have? They didn't have persistence. Persistence beats talent every day. And boy, that is like the most freeing thought I've ever heard. That means you can have no talent, no intelligence, you can still come out on top and you can still win. You can have no clue what to do. But if all you got in your back pocket is persistence and grit, it's literally a matter of time. It is just a matter of time. Where talent doesn't carry you very far because talent, a lot of times, talent isn't earned, right? We have natural proclivities. We have natural things that come easy to us, right? Like for me, English, writing essays came easy to me. That's just what I was good at growing up. I wasn't good at math, right? And so I didn't appreciate English and I didn't try hard at English. Could I have been a famous writer? Yeah, probably. Did I have the persistence? No. So ladies, you don't need any talent. You don't need any idea sometimes. On those bad days where you just don't know what to do, health and weight loss, family, whatever related, career, when you just don't know what to do, guess what? You don't have to. You just have to know that you'll figure it out as long as you are persistent. And that is just so powerful because being successful or how you define success doesn't mean there's an absence of failure. Being successful doesn't mean you fail less. Being successful means you are persistent through every failure that you face. And because you are persistent, you don't waste time overthinking the failure. You don't waste time feeling guilty about the failure. You don't waste time wondering why the failure happened. You move through it onto the next little golden nugget that failure was supposed to teach you. And because of that, you climb the ladder way faster instead of looking down at the rung on the ladder that broke, being mad about it. You just skip it and go to the next rung. And before you know it, you've climbed to the top of the ladder, you've reached your mountain. And so it's just so cool, ladies, to think that all you're missing and the only thing between you and your goal, like your big goal, ladies, not the realistic one, not the one that we've decided we want to go for because it's maybe we'll hit it and I don't want to disappoint myself. It's the big goal. The difference between you and that goal is just persistence. That's it. Just don't stop. Before Ryan and I started Tremera, we had like, I don't know, 10 different businesses. I think we started 10 businesses together. And like almost none of them made any money. We had no clients. They took off. We never paid ourselves. We were in debt. And it was persistent. It's been over a decade since we've been together. And we've been with Tremera for a couple years now, handful of years. And that's the one that took off because we were persistent. But boy, did it not, boy, I didn't want to be. You ever tried something again and again and again, and you're like, God, why am I doing this? What's the point? The point is, what else do you have to do, ladies? You're born, you live, you die. That's a lot of stuff happening in between those two events. What else are you going to fill your time with? TV? Your phone? Food? I know you know that that is a sad living. But what we can really do is it's just one character trait that you don't need, that doesn't even need to come natural to you. Being persistent doesn't even need to come natural to you. And the cool thing is persistence looks different from person to person. And so if you showed up for yourself today, even just a little bit, that's you being persistent. So you took one step towards your goal. Maybe you took 5 steps towards your goal, 20 steps towards your goal, just because you were persistent. And you didn't need to do more research. You didn't need to think it to choose your action. You just acted. And so what I want you ladies to do is realize that you are only a finite number of failures away from your goal. Failure's not a bad word. Failure's not a scary word. Failure doesn't even mean you failed. Right? Like I've reclaimed the word failure. I don't view it as this bad thing. It's like, oh, that didn't get me closer to my goal, but it did. You either know what path to take, or now you know what path not to take. So it did get you closer to your goal. You know, people tell me horrible things that have happened in their life. I was talking to a client recently and she had some horrible things happening to her. And I said, congratulations. I'm sorry you're in pain right now, but oh my gosh, am I so excited to see the person that this turns you into. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for this test for you. If you can do this, you can do anything. If you can be healthy and focus on yourself when life is chaos around you, then it's easy no matter what happens. So if you've fallen off, or if you fall off in the future, because we all will, myself included, congratulations. Congratulations. Celebrate. Cheer. Talk about it. Tell a friend and be like, what did you learn? Oh my gosh, now what? So we're not going to take that path again? Okay, cool. I'll cross it off my list. Persistence is your word, ladies. Write it on your phone. Write it on your mirror. Write it in your notes. Persistence. If you had persistence, you can't not reach your goal. It doesn't even make sense, does it? If you had to pick any character trait and skill and talent, anything that assured that you'd reach your goal, what would you pick? What would you pick? Persistence! What else is there to pick? Motivation? Well, motivation ain't consistent, right? What would you pick? Consistency? Well, consistency is persistence. You have to be persistent with your consistency. You can't just be consistent for a week. Right? Like when it boils down to what you need, it is only persistence. So take comfort in that. Take the pressure off of yourself to be perfect and realize if you just never give up, if it's always on your mind and you're excited about it and you face the failures and you want to problem solve and you want to learn about yourself, then you'll never lose. You'll only lose weight, which is the goal. Right? And so I think it's very important, ladies, that you expand your timeline of your health, because if we all want to be healthy for the rest of our life, as short as that is, it's also long when you're in it. You know, if we look at the past 10 years, we're like, wow, that went by like a blink of an eye. But while we were in it, it didn't, right? It felt long, really long some days, really tough some days. And so we're just missing the mindset of, oh, right, I'm supposed to be persistent. Oh, right, When something doesn't go according to plan, you're like, oh, right, this is the test. Oh, right, this is when I get to practice my persistence. Right, forgot. Because we're going to slip up, we're going to forget. But that's the fun part. The fun part is you get to try again. Nothing is permanent. And if you're alive and breathing, hallelujah, try again. Get up, be persistent again. And so I really want you to take that to heart. And I really want you to ask yourself, what does persistence look like for me? And how have I not been persistent? Because there's been times where other people come first, other responsibilities come first, right? Where we come last. We put everybody else first. There's times when that has happened. And so when that is likely to happen again, ask yourself, what would that need to look like this time around to prove that I'm actually putting in that persistence? What would it need to look like, right? What would I need to do to prove to myself that I'm actually still working on my goal instead of putting my goal on hold? Because if you're going to take persistence serious, and if that's going to be your word for the rest of this year, that means from now until forever, you can never put your goal on hold no matter what is happening to you. Do you understand that? No matter what life is going to throw at you, because oh my, you've got lots of good years left. There's going to be some crazy stuff that goes down. There's going to be some wild stories you're going to go through. But no matter what, you cannot put your goal on hold. That is not persistent. Persistence is life is crazy. I can barely keep my head above water, but I did 10 sit-ups while my eggs were cooking. That's it. That's it. That's it, ladies. Instead of saying, I'm tired, I'm too stressed tomorrow. If you put your goal on hold, you're putting living your best life on hold. It's really true that nothing tastes as good as fit feels. Like, I can tell you the difference. Being in a fit body, being in control, not being a slave to cravings, not being afraid of overeating and what I have to wear here that's comfortable, or these pants won't fit when I overeat, or how did I look in this picture? Oh my God, there's a bathing suit weekend coming up. Not having to do that completely changes your life. Life feels like you're running through a meadow towards your love of your life. You know those romantic movies where you're just running, frolicking in a field? That's what life feels like every day when you are fit and healthy and on the top of your game. Like it's what is it called? It's called an ignorance tax. An ignorance tax. So they say it in business, and it's like if you're not making $1 million a year in business and you're making, let's say, $250,000 a year in business, you're paying the ignorance tax of $750,000. That's the ignorance tax of not knowing how to make $1 million a year. You're losing that much every year, hypothetically, because you don't know how to get to your goal. Same thing goes for your weight and your body. You are paying a tax with years wasted, hours gone, minutes miserable. You are paying a tax on your life. You don't even realize it. By not being that 10 out of 10 you are paying a tax. And it's going to take a toll. And it's crazy. And I can't explain it other than when you get there, you'll finally understand how subpar you've been living. And you might feel like your life is wonderful. And I hope it is. And I hope, of course, I hope you love your life and you love your family. But there is so much more. There is so much more waiting. And it doesn't necessarily mean there's so many more things to add to your life. It's just there's like these feelings that you can have. The freedom in your mind. The little pleasures you get from small things finally. It's crazy. And I don't want you guys to pay that ignorance tax anymore. Because it's going to bankrupt your happiness. If it hasn't already. Right? Then you got to take out a loan and borrow somebody else's happiness. And then, you ruin your marriage, you ruin your relationship with your kids, your coworkers, yourself. It's a downward spiral. If you are not being persistent, if you're not trying, if you're putting things on hold, I mean, you're just paying more and more tax, ladies. And so I really want you to think about that. And I really want to ask yourself, if I could never stop if I could never stop working towards my goal ever again, what would that look like on my worst day? And how could I still be persistent? How can I define that? And that way you have the definition for when that appears. Because you won't have the capacity necessarily to figure that out in the moment. Because when we're down, right? And so think about that. Seriously. Brainstorm, think, how does persistence look through a holiday, right? Through a vacation, through getting a cold, through taking care of your parents. All this stuff. Ask yourself that. And you'll be prepared no matter what. And then you can master the art of bouncing back, like I said. Just never stop.